Hey guys, welcome back to our next mini vid on Module 2, Age of Exploration and Colonization. This mini vid is specifically on the Age of Exploration. After the following the video on the opening of Europe, we're now going to take a look at the Age of Exploration. And in this video, at the end, you should be able to identify the Age of Exploration, tell me what it stands for, identify some key inventions that made exploration easier, and the progression of exploration throughout the globe. And so to get started, the Age of Exploration, and there's a lot of information here to pick up on, is basically a time period when you have different countries, European countries, looking to explore out. Portuguese explorers are going to look to go out and settle. Ultimately, the motivation of these countries is to get to what we call the Far East. It's one of your vocabulary terms. The Far East is the place that is located on your map as Asia and India, which is down here. All these different trade routes along the way have all the different silks and spices and things that the European countries want. And so if we start here in Europe, this is where the exploration starts, and you're trying to go to Asia, which is this way, we are going to what's called the Far East. And so the motivation for many of these countries, again, is to reach the Far East to make money, to bring those products back to the European countries and sell them. Now, out of the three inventions that we have, the first thing that you have is this thing up here called an astrolabe. And so the astrolabe is a tool designed to set coordinates on a map so that explorers, when they're out in the ocean, they can use the stars and the horizon line to kind of locate themselves. This is going to give them confidence to go out and explore and leave the site of the shore, which is going to be necessary in order for effective exploration. The second invention here is something that we call the magnetic compass. The magnetic compass is a tool that is going to allow them to find direction. A magnetic compass tells you which direction is north, and so from there they can kind of figure out which direction they're heading. They're heading south, east, west, etc., so that they can return. The last invention is the caravel. They use the caravel as a new sailing tool or device. It has these triangular sails which can catch the wind and push the boat along faster. And then it has this thing down here called the rudder that you can use to steer the boat. And so your exploration and your travel on the seas can become that much more efficient and reliable. So you have the vessel that you're sailing in, the caravel, the magnetic compass to tell you the direction you're headed, and the astrolabe to tell you where on the map you are. Those three tools are going to make reaching the Far East by water hopefully possible. And so to break down getting to the Far East, we actually break this down into three different phases. Phase number one of exploration is referred to as reaching the Far East. The explorers were trying to find this faster route to the Far East, to China. And so they're looking to go over here to the Far East. And to do this, they need to get around this big continent of Africa. Africa's standing in their way. See, previously they would travel across land this way down through Persia and then out to China. And the problem with traveling on land is that it was slow and it was dangerous. And so you had pirates that were looking on land to steal cargo. And so to find a faster route that was a little bit safer was the objective for many of these earlier countries. And now that they had technology to do that, they're looking to get around Africa and make that happen. So Prince Henry, the navigator, which is over here in your notes, is going to set up a school out of Portugal, which is right here on your map, circled in green. Portugal is going to be where exploration kind of starts. And he's going to send some explorers out and down the Atlantic coast, reaching some of these trade cities along the coast. Eventually they're going to keep going down the Atlantic coast till you get to the Cape of Good Hope, all the while turning back until you reach this guy named Vasco da Gama. Vasco da Gama A couple years later, after explorers are continuing to search, continuing to gain knowledge of the area, you get Vasco da Gama, and he's going to make this journey finally all the way around and over to India, completing phase one of what we call exploration. And so, why to the Far East? Why do they want to go? Why are these people in search of this faster water route? Is they're looking for silks, they're looking for spices, any kind of new products or inventions. They're basically looking to make some sort of money. And so, phase one of exploration, the goal of the first explorers is to get to the Far East by getting around to Africa. So, as time is moving on, you have more and more people in countries looking to settle, and not settle, but explore. And so you have England getting involved, France getting involved, Spain, Portugal. And so all of these different countries now are trying to get to the Far East. And so one of the things that happens is Christopher Columbus is going to come up with a plan to do what we call west to go east up here. And what that means is instead of starting at Europe, if you take a look at the map and just heading east, he is going to actually decide to go the opposite way. He's going to decide to go west instead, learning now that the world is not necessarily flat. By this time they're getting the idea that the world might be round, but they don't know how round. And so his plan is to go west and go all the way around to get back to what we call the Far East, which is why we say west to go east. And so this is phase two of exploration. This route going west on the map is going to lead to them circumnavigating the globe, realizing how big the Earth actually is. And while Christopher Columbus was not one of the first people to reach North America, he does reach the New World in 1492. And by doing so, he opens up exploration for several other countries. They now start to see the western route towards the Americas as a viable option. And so his effects long term are that he brings more countries west, other countries like France and England, to explore and to try and find the Far East and to get around North America, this big roadblock that's in the way. But in the instance of doing this, we have what is known as contact. Contact is when the New World of the Americas meets the Old World, and there's this exchange of products, often referred to as the Columbian Exchange, right down here. This Columbian Exchange is cultural diffusion. This is one of your vocabulary words. Cultural diffusion simply means the exchange of products, ideas, ethnicities, etc. And so phase two of exploration in this evolving process of finding the Americas is heading west to get to the Far East. Still looking for the Far East, still looking for all the products, but oops, wait a second, there's this big continent that is in the way. And part of the issue, or the result, or the effects of Columbus's contact is you have this cultural diffusion, or this exchange of products. We'll talk more about that in class, but this is one of the effects of phase two. Now, most of the European explorers and countries were a little bit stubborn. They had recognized that North America was there, but they were still looking for what we refer to as phase three, which is the Northwest Passage. The Northwest Passage is phase three. Now, it's called the Northwest Passage if you take a look at your map, because we're starting out in Europe, and they recognize that North America is there, and so they're trying to find a waterway through or around North America. Which direction is this? Northwest. And so we call it this Northwest Passage because they're trying to get through or around North America. They still don't see North America as a valuable place to be. They still want to get to the Far East. They don't know how big it is, and as they explore up things like the Hudson River, they explore up the Mississippi River, they explore up the Hudson Bay, they're going to explore up the St. Lawrence River. All these countries looking for waterways through or around North America are getting into the continent by using these rivers. They actually start to see that there are valuable resources that exist on this continent. And so from here, what you start doing is you start having a shift in mentality from exploration to, hey, maybe we should start to colonize. There is stuff here that we can use. And so phase 3 of exploration is after you get around Africa, phase 1. After phase 2, west to go east. Phase 3 is now find a route through North America, Northwest Passage. And that passage, not actually there. And so what that ultimately does is lead to colonization by these countries. And so phases of exploration, there are 3 in total. And if you look at them and look at the objective, is you have the idea here that in the span of 100 years, Europe is going to go from exploring North and South America in the late 1400s, early 1500s, to setting up the first colonies that are going to take shape. Like 1585, St. Augustine, Florida, 1607, Jamestown, Massachusetts, all within the span of about 100 years. These countries, European countries, are going to start colonizing. And these colonies are going to be the roots of what is going to make the United States the United States. And so hopefully you got all those notes down. I've taken too much of your time already. If you have any questions, please bring them to class, and we should be good to go. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.